Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org, for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Pablo Omar Zaragoza. We'll be discussing his book, An Infectious Game, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And Pablo was brought to People of Distinction today by some of the best movers in the business, Parchment Global Publishing. If you have a book that you'd like moved, move it through Parchment. You can find them at parchmentglobalpublishing.com. And guys, listen, I am so excited to have Pablo here on the line because, listen, this is really a treat for everybody involved, okay? Not only are we going to be really primarily focusing on the main title of the hour, An Infectious Game, but listen, Pablo has put in quite the time into his career and into investing in these books. Not only has he written that one, but he has 10 other titles that he has also completed already, all of which will be available on Amazon.com, so you guys can go and pick up your books there. But he has another one that he just finished, not quite published yet, still in creation, but that one will be out very, very shortly as well. And listen, we're going to hold off on the other titles because there's so many of them. I didn't want to have to be responsible for remembering them all. So we're going to have Pablo come in at the end of the interview. We're going to give him a few minutes to talk about those as well. But really, the topic of discussion for this particular interview is An Infectious Game. Fantastic. It's a sci-fi thriller, okay? A suspense novel that way that I'm sure you have never heard of anything quite like this, all right? And listen, Pablo is going to be able to explain all of this much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get him here on the line with us. Pablo, first and foremost, man, thank you so much for being a guest with us on People of Distinction. How are you today?
I'm great, Benji. Just great. How about you?
I'm well, man. I can't complain. And listen, given this, this tough time that we're all facing right now, I have my health, I have my loved ones around me, so there's really not much else I can complain about. Right? We're here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Pablo, before we jump in to An Infectious Game, let's hold off on that slightly. Listen, let's jump right into a little bit of your background. Tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, I went to the University of Florida, undergraduate as a microbiologist, went to medical school, and became a pathologist for many years. And then I got out of the pathology, which is the study of disease, and became a primary care physician in one of the most dangerous places in the United States, Florida State Prison. And so I've been involved in patient care and in looking at disease for about 30 years before I ever started typing away.
You know, can we just take a second to just acknowledge how impressive that is? Not only do you have this amazing career, but you've also written 11 books on top of that, on the end of it. Man, listen, there's really no excuse. I can't I have no excuses on anything that I ever come across in my life anymore. It's all about that dedication, right, that you've put forth. And again, man, that is absolutely commendable. Pablo, let's jump right in. An Infectious Game. Tell us a little bit about the book.
An Infectious Game is about a young woman who, when she's born, they misdiagnose her and say that they raised her as a girl, but in reality she is what's called a pseudohermaphrodite, someone who's not either boy nor girl. The genitalia are abnormal, okay? Mm-hmm. And she's bullied and by the kids at school, and she's looked down upon by parents until she meets this one fella who is Uncle Joey, the next door neighbor. Turns out he's a child molester. But in dealing with him, she notices these little papules around his skin, and she becomes interested in what causes these little things, these little pustules. And so she takes a slide and looks at it and goes to the library and researches it and finds out that it's an infection called candidiasis. And this begins a lifelong career in looking at disease. Now, she also has a very mean streak. Poor Uncle Joey meets his fate by an exploding house, which she kind of manipulates. And we see his parts all over the garden. But eventually they label him as a child molester because there's a graveyard in the backyard of Uncle Joey's house.
Wow.
She acquires a lot of cash, available cash, and she starts experimenting and collecting specimens from the homeless in Miami. And with that, she begins to develop a library of bacteria, fungi, and viruses, which she applies to people that don't treat her very well. The bullies, the threats to her safety, the two doctors that misdiagnosed her all get a special treat in their either in their food or in their products, healthcare products. They all become subject to her rather prolific art, and she calls it an art because she believes that what she's doing is an artistic is her artistic expression.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, being an artist myself, right? The phrase that keeps coming to mind is beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So
absolutely,
you can't judge another person's art.
Right.
Wow.
Right. You know, and science and medicine are really art forms.
Absolutely.
You have to consider them as art. You know, there's nothing black and white in terms of how you diagnose somebody or how you pursue an investigation.
Guys, again, here on the line with Pablo Omar Zaragoza. We're discussing an infectious game available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And listen, as I started off this interview by saying, this is a book that I'm sure you haven't heard anything quite like this before. And after that description, I think, you know, my words have come to fruition. I mean, that is absolutely incredible, Pablo. Now, next question that we have is, listen, the title right off the bat is very gripping. You know, it really piques your interest. An infectious game. Talk to us a little bit about, and of course, through your description, we can always assume and we can kind of start to piece things together on why that is the name of the book. But you know what happens when you assume. So we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
So, Pablo, we have you here on the line. Talk to us a little bit about the title. Why did you decide to name your novel that particular title?
Originally, I had a different title, but then in discussing it with my partner and editor, we came up with a better title, which is Infectious Game, and that's what it is for her. It's art and game, because the art is creating these bacteria. The game is how to inoculate or how to expose these people to these infectious agents. Mm-hmm. And she has wonderful imagination as to how she infects people, not only through injection, but inhalation. One of the doctors gets tuberculosis by inhaling and consuming his Indian curry.
Wow.
And others, she puts a dengue virus in a cheesecake. She doesn't like a particular hotel in Portugal, and so they placed her in this basement because they had no room at the inn, and she puts Legionnaire's disease in their air conditioning system, infecting the entire place. So it's a game, you know. Yeah, I've got this bug. How am I going to get it into their system?
Listen, if nothing else, after our readers are done with this novel, they're going to learn, you know, be careful on how you treat people, okay? Because
you better believe it.
You never know who's going to be able to come back at you and which way they're going to be able to utilize things that way. So Pablo, thank you so much. Next question that I have, let's go on to the inspiration. Okay, now, again, I know you were talking about your medical background, and of course, it seems clear as to how, that inspired this particular novel. But in addition to what inspired you to write this particular story of an infectious game, also, what inspired you to become a writer and embark upon this creative journey?
Well, let's start the emptiness syndrome, which a lot of us suffer through. Working in medicine wasn't fulfilling enough. And so I sat down in front of the computer one night and I heard little voices telling me, write. And I said, what the heck am I going to write about? And he says, well, write about what you know. And since I know about diseases and infections and so forth, I started writing this and started developing the characters and the infections and how they would present and how it would be, you could visualize these things. And so it came through that. And after I finished the first book and I put it down, the other one started to materialize, and then the other one, and I write every day. I've got about 2 million words that I've done in the last 3 years.
Wow. Again, as we were talking about, when you told me that is so impressive, man. And across the board, whether you're an artist, whether you play sports, or whether you're just a career oriented person, listen, practice makes perfect, right? So it's something that you always have to put in the time and the effort in. And that is remarkable to hear you say that. And it truly is a testament to those words and everything that you've been able to accomplish. Guys, one more time, here on the line with Pablo Omar Zaragoza, talking about an infectious game available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So next question that I really want to ask, Pablo, is why did you feel that this book needed to be written, right? And it wasn't something, you're talking about how the words just kind of flowed from you and just came out, just seeping through your pores almost. Why did you feel that this was something that couldn't just stay there on your computer screen, but something that you also really wanted to put out for the public to be able to partake in as well?
We've had a series of different outbreaks of infection, not only just the COVID-19, but the SARS, the swine flu. Mm-hmm. All of these things have come up. And my question is, rattling in my brain, how much of this is manufactured and how much of this is just nature on its own invading us one more time? During history, we've had the Black Plague, the Spanish flu, and those were things that came out from nature. But this kind of almost yearly type of attack on the human race just seems a little bit alarming to me anyway.
Absolutely.
And so I created this woman who has a library of infectious agents that she likes to unleash on an unknowing person or persons.
What you were talking about in terms of the number of infectious diseases that we've, really within our lifetime that we've experienced, but of course over the lifetime of humanity that way. I mean, it's alarming, right? And it's a lot. And for you to utilize that in this novel, I think is something that, of course, is just instantly relatable and something that we can all have a particular interest in because, again, it's something that has affected our lives in one way or another. So I think that was a great – Pablo, this is something straight out of a Hollywood film, man. And as I stated before, I mean, a novel of this particular topic is something that is so original that if you haven't been approached yet by, any of these Hollywood studios, I would say be prepared, man, because I don't think it can only be a matter of time before somebody comes knocking on your door because this is so unique. It is so original. And, I think a lot of times now in Hollywood, everything just keeps being recycled, it seems, right? And it's kind of the same movie that keeps getting done over and over. But this is so original. How do you not pick it up and really try to run with it that way? So thank you so much for bringing this.
Yeah, we've had it plugged in Hollywood 4 times now, so Who knows? Maybe someone will run with it. I have no idea.
Absolutely. Well, the interest is there, of course. If you know you've had the discussions already, it's only a matter of time. Now, as we start to tie up this book, because guys, as I said, we have 10 other titles to at least touch on. So as we tie this one up, the last thing that I really want to ask you about an Infectious game is, I'm sure there's a lot of different messages and a lot of different themes that can be pulled from this book. But if there's one central message that you really want to make sure that our listening audience here at People of Distinction knows about this book, what would that message be?
I think you touched on it. Be kind to the people around you, because you don't know who's going to come out with a knife or with a gun or with a baseball bat or with a bacteria that could really cause you some major damage. Okay?
Absolutely.
And I think that's the most important thing to take away from this.
There it is. There it is, guys. Just be mindful on how you treat others, right? And that's a message that we love to discuss here at People of Distinction when we're addressing our human family, is it's all about our interaction that way. So let's tie this one up. That was such a beautiful book. Pablo, listen, I'm going to let you take the reins from here, man. We have a number of other titles that you've been able to create. Talk to us about some of the titles, please.
Sure. There's Armageddon, an Apache story on how the devil trying to come back into humanity because he wants to be redeemed. And the only way redemption occurs is by having a soul inside the well of the soul in a human being. And so he tries to invade the well of the soul. And, of course, the devil being what he is, he causes havoc on everyone. Mm-hmm. Then we have Delirium, which is the children of Lilith, how they interact with the world and how they try to do better than just being a demon. Then we have Brazzaville, which is the continuation of the Casablanca story from the point where Rick and Louis leave the airport and in the fog and travel to Brazzaville, and how they are involved in North Africa and the battle for North Africa, and then in Europe. We also have Protect the Guilty, which is a ghost story about a ghost who takes possession of people and tries to solve crimes through being possessed. Then we have the two Matson Case 1 and Matson Case 2. Matson is an African-American detective in New York City in the 50s and 60s who deals with serial killers and Operation Paperclip, which is the Nazification of America. And then there's Sour Life, which is a story of a Cuban-American and how his journey in the United States from 1959 to the present. Mm-hmm. We have Cassie DeNova, which is a comedy romance, which is about a young man who tries to bring himself up by using the internet and conning women to send him money. But the money they send is put to good use in his community. And then we have Animal Court, where the animals take humanity to court for crimes against nature. And then we have The Devil in Lincoln Park, which is about a series of murders that occur in Lincoln Park and how they're investigated. And we have others.
Pablo, this is absolutely incredible, man. And again, just the number of books that you've been able to write. And again, as I told you in the pre-screening call, I've done so many of these interviews by this point. There's so many authors. Then this is not to knock any of my previous authors. Listen, I meet very impressive people on a daily basis. I don't think I've ever met someone that I find as impressive as you and what you've been able to establish. And so many great titles that you just listed. But one that really stuck out to me was really, I think, probably the second one that you had mentioned. And I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was revolving around Lilith's children. And
the children of Lilith, yes.
yeah, what is so incredible about it, first of all, you hardly ever hear anything about Lilith to begin with, right? And to know that you then go into this story of Lilith, but then go even further that and talk about her children that way is absolutely
Well, I'm going to tell you, this particular book was reviewed, and the reviewer equated what I did with demons to what Anne Rice did with vampires.
Mm.
It's the story of Lilith and her children. And we go through the creation story, how Lilith rejected Adam and tried to escape from Adam and was then bound in a prison, which the devil can enter. And therefore, he procreates with her. And in the story of Lilith, she consumes her children, except for a few. And that's how it starts. And she finally gets to escape from that prison and roams. The three of the children and her roam the earth. But she creates other things out there. And we go through the demonology of a lot of different cultures, the Arabic culture, the Chinese and Korean, the Spanish, the Native American, and so forth, because these people travel all around the world trying to do good and trying to find Lilith to be able to destroy her. So it's a great read. Not because I wrote it, but it's a great read.
No, it sounds like it. And guys, again, as we started off, listen, I told you that an Infectious game was remarkably original. But as you can see, all of these stories are so, so unique in their own right. Listen, last question that we're going to do as we're kind of tying everything up. We know about the books. We know about the work that you've put forth, Pablo. And it absolutely, again, is something that just lends so much credence to you as an author. Man, you've done a remarkable job of comprising all of these stories. I would feel remiss if I didn't include this question also in the interview. Being an artist myself and having this platform that I can actually pay it forward to other artists and offer this as a way to help other artists as well on their journey. You've written now 11 books, getting ready to publish your 12th. You definitely know better than anyone some of the traps to stay away from and in the pitfalls that can come up traveling on this type of creative journey. What advice can you give a new reader, somebody just starting off?
There are a lot of folks out there who want to pitch to you that you've got the greatest thing since mother's milk, and what they want is your money. That's all they want is your money. You're not gonna be on Oprah. You're not gonna be on the book club. You're not gonna sell 1 million copies in the first month. This takes a lot of patience and a lot of dedication and discipline and disappointment, because you write and you think these things are, you get good reviews and you get people like you who promote us. And yet, our sales are not as impressive as we'd like. Because, again, you're competing with 5,000 copies, books a day, 5,000 books a day. Mm-hmm. So you just have to, if you have a voice, you keep on shouting and keep on writing and keep on performing and keep on putting your name out there. It's what you need to do.
Absolutely. Wonderfully said. And listen, I can attest to that, being an artist as well. Really, that is just kind of the life of an artist a lot of times is, listen, you can't do it for instant success, or you can't do it for the fame or the glory that way, because a lot of times it goes unnoticed, right? You do it for the passion that you bring to your art. And ultimately, I think if you operate from that standpoint, everything ends up being very fruitful. I remember I was talking to one author not too long ago, and he he talked about the advice that he gave was, listen, you got to be happy selling one copy. And of course, that's not your goal. That's not your goal, right? You want to sell a lot more, but you have to understand that you're not doing it to sell 1 million copies. That'd be great if it happened, but you're doing it because you're passionate about writing, right? And I think that, again, as you stated, listen, you have 2 million words on your computer up to this point. I mean, it's clearly something that you're passionate about. And listen, Pablo, we are going to do everything that we can here on our end here with People of Distinction to really try to help you sell as many copies as possible, because listen, I don't say this stuff just to say it. These books are absolutely incredible and so refreshing. And given the time that we're all facing right now with this pandemic, we're all spending a lot of time at home, right? So let's, if we can't leave the four walls of our home physically, let's try to mentally get out of the confines that we find ourselves stuck in, and utilizing these books will definitely help you do just that. So guys, one last time, here on the line with Pablo, Omar, Zaragoza. We just finished discussing an Infectious game available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but just know there are many other titles all available on Amazon as well. There's definitely something there for everyone, whatever your particular taste is. I promise you, Pablo has something there for you. So go and check it out. Pick up those books. You definitely will not be disappointed. Pablo, thank you so much for being a guest with us on People of Distinction.
Thank you, Benji. Appreciate the time.